This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Over the last several days, we have seen the media saturating everywhere about Prince Harry's massive court defeat. The headlines are everywhere. A totally crushed lawsuit against a major British newspaper and an estimated legal bill that could hit almost £50 million. Does anybody think Harry is going to cough up the dough? I don't think so. I have this feeling that Pa might end up having to bail Harry and Meghan out. But everyone is talking about the money and this embarrassment. And in this court case, I'm not sure if people are aware, but the claimants all purchased something called after the event, otherwise known as 8 litigation insurance. And this policy was specifically designed to protect them from having to personally pay the defendants massive legal costs if they lost. Now, it was rumored that this insurance was expected to cover a significant portion of the adverse costs order, which some thought that it was around like $14 million. But the total bill is estimated at up to £50 million or around $67 million, well above the available cover, meaning that the claimants that got this insurance could still face a large shortfall. So when you think about it, everyone in that group, sure, are multimillionaires except Baroness Doreen Lawrence. I sure hope that Harry is willing to help her out if indeed this does come to having to pay so many millions of dollars. The standard 8 policies include clauses that allow insurers to avoid or limit payouts in cases of misrepresentation, non-disclosure, policy breaches, or evidence of dishonesty, including potential issues arising from court testimony. It's not looking so good because this insurance could fall through or only partially pay out for several reasons. The overall costs have exceeded the policy limits, which I do believe is the case here. So the excess would fall on the claimants personally, and insurers could invoke avoidance clauses if they believe there was any misrepresentation or problematic conduct during the case. The final amount Harry and the others actually have to pay will depend on how the judge appropriates costs among the 7 claimants and how much the insurers ultimately will agree to cover. So now that we understand this, I think it now makes a lot more sense as to why Charlotte Griffiths posted or published that exclusive yesterday in the Daily Mail, accusing Harry outright for lying. That's going to have impact not only on the insurance policy, but also is going to have impact on the justice who's going to assign the costs that they're going to have to pay. So now it makes total sense as to why we're seeing Katie Nichols as well as Charlotte Griffiths everywhere echoing the same message about Harry not being honest. Come to think about it, Charlotte Griffiths and Katie Nichols have been reporting on Harry and Meghan for the past 10 years, and never once have they called them out for being liars. But now all of a sudden, both of them are not afraid to use this term and calling Harry and Meghan liars or calling Prince Harry a liar. Something tells me that they might be getting a cut of that payout. And that's probably why we're seeing both Katie Nichols and Charlotte Griffiths speaking out. But I'm not so sure that I'm sold on that theory because there were other misrepresentations that could stand on its own. Almost no one is talking about how this loss actually happened. I mean, this was a complete disaster that everybody saw coming. Prince Harry's lawyers spent years building this massive multi-million-pound case against the press, but it was literally all resting on the shoulders of one single man. When that man changed the story before this went to trial, the entire lawsuit burned to the ground. What I could never understand is why didn't the judge dismiss it? Anyhow, today we're going to skip the tabloid gossip and go right back to the judge's final decision and break down exactly how a rock-solid lawsuit turned into a complete nightmare for Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. And to understand this, you only need to know one name, and that name is Gavin Burrows. Now, some of you may recall that when Prince Harry's legal team filed their lawsuit, they relied heavily on a written witness statement from a man named Gavin Burrows. In this 2021 document, Burroughs allegedly admitted to carrying out widespread illegal information gathering for the newspaper in the early 2000s. The document outlines serious allegations, including intercepting voicemails and unlawfully obtaining confidential medical records. However, as the trial approached, Harry's legal team made a specific tactical decision. They filed an application to have the judge accept Burroughs' written statement purely as hearsay evidence. In legal terms, submitting evidence as hearsay means you want the court to read and accept the written document, but you're not planning to put the witness on the stand. By doing this, Prince Harry's lawyers were attempting to submit the explosive claims into evidence without allowing the newspaper's lawyers the opportunity to question Burroughs face-to-face in cross-examination. That should tell you right there that some shady stuff was going on. The court denied the request to simply use the hearsay document. The judge required Burroughs to give a live testimony, but when the time finally came for the trial, the evidence completely reversed direction. Gavin Burroughs testified in court, or on video, that the original 2021 statement was false. He stated that he never carried out illegal activities for the newspaper, and he claimed that the signature on his 2021 confession was a forgery. Now remember, Gavin gave his testimony via video link from an undisclosed location because he was being threatened allegedly by Harry's team for not going along with the preferred narrative. So now the primary piece of evidence Prince Harry's team was relying on was now being actively disowned by the man who supposedly signed it. The court was then forced to spend significant time reviewing a highly complex paper trail involving an investigative journalist who acted as an intermediary, and that would be Graham Johnson. The judge had to figure out if there was any truth left to extract from a witness who was directly contradicting his own prior statements. So when Justice Nicklin handed down his final judgment, he literally systematically dismantled all the evidence. His legal conclusions regarding Gavin Burroughs was absolutely clear. First, the judge ruled that because of how the 2021 document was created and handled, the court could not reliably conclude that Burroughs ever actually made those original claims. Second, the judge found Burroughs to be an unreliable witness on the stand, stating that his changing stories meant his live testimony could not be trusted. And third, because the witness evidence was completely undermined, Prince Harry's team was left without independent, hard proof to back up their claims against the newspaper. So the claimants, or the lawyers, attempted to argue that the court should infer the newspaper's guilt based on the circumstances, but the judge reminded them of a fundamental legal standard. He wrote, "Suspicion, even understandable suspicion, is not proof." Because the legal team could not provide concrete evidence linking the newspaper to the alleged illegal acts, the judge had no choice but to dismiss the claims. The burden of proof was on the claimants, and they just didn't have it. And I do believe that Gavin Burroughs' testimony was supposed to be that smoking gun, and when that fell through, the whole entire case fell down. What's baffling to me is that Gavin Burroughs came forward early on, before a trial date was even set, to say that he didn't sign that document that was being submitted into evidence for this case. So the question I have is, why did they allow it to be submitted? And why did they move forward with this case if there was evidence of forgery and manipulation? So I almost wonder if this is now going to come back to haunt Harry, because when you look at Gavin Burroughs' signature, the one on the top dated August 16, 2021, that's the one he's saying is forged. His real signature is the one below it, and it looks nothing like the signature above it. The signature above it does have similarities to Harry's handwriting. Now, I'm not saying Harry was the one that forged it, but when you look at the handwriting, it does look kind of similar. So the question now becomes, will there be an investigation into this actual document, or has this just been pushed to the wayside? And I would like to know, why hasn't the judge recommended an investigation into this? I would think that this was perjury. I would think that this is a criminal offense. And I would like to know, why is it with everything pertaining to Harry and Meghan, it's never cut and dry? And I would like to think, out of the whole case, this was the most serious, but for whatever reason, nobody is talking about it. Why? Instead, we have more of this bullshit where it's now being announced that Meghan will bring Archie Markle and little Betty Markle to the UK this week. It's Thursday already. When are they planning on coming over? Tomorrow? So Victoria Ward writes, the Duchess of Sussex and her 2 children will come to Britain this week, but will make no public appearances, the Telegraph understands. Meghan will no longer attend an Invictus Games event with Prince Harry in Birmingham on Friday as originally planned. She had already pulled out of a scheduled appearance with her husband at the Royal Hospital Chelsea in London on Wednesday, as the couple reeled from the decision to deny them police protection during their UK visit. As a result, the Sussexes announced last weekend that the Duchess and her children would no longer travel to London. This is breaking news story. More follows. This has gotten also stupid. Why bother make the announcement that Meghan and the 2 kids now will be going over to see the king when there will be no public appearances? You know what this tells me? That Meghan and the 2 invisible kids are really not going over there. They're just creating the optics. Like, whatever is going on is weird. The fact that Victoria Ward now is reporting this, what's the point? What's the point? Why do these people think the public cares if Meghan is going to go over there with these 2 invisible kids that likely are not supposed to be in the line of succession? Does anybody really think that this announcement is going to show in good faith that this stupid bitch is not going to leak information or create photos that make it look like there was a meeting? You know what I mean? How can anybody take any of this serious now? At this point, I think all of us are beyond pissed off at the constant, will they, won't they? Like, nobody cares, Meghan. Like, I'm at the point where I'm not even annoyed anymore with Harry and Meghan. I'm more annoyed with these journalists who keep putting this shit out. Deputy Royal Editor Victoria Ward, what kind of journalist are you? Keep in mind that Victoria Ward is part of the Royal Rota. So we're supposed to believe that the palace has no involvement with this shit show that's going on? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This whole trailer trash saga that we've been put through these past 10 years have definitely cheapened the monarchy. The royal brand is not what it used to be. I almost wonder if the monarchy has been already in the process of falling. You know how many times we hear, oh, that's going to end the monarchy, it's going to end the monarchy. I don't think people fully understand what it will take to end the monarchy. Realize that everything is tied to the crown, all the laws, all the buildings. I mean, think about how deeply rooted the institution is in the UK. Like, take notice of all the little things that have been going on. Like the logo change. It's small, but it's significant. You went from His Majesty's government to then a UK government. Now you have Charles defending all the faiths, going back on his oath, and then making the recent announcement that he's not going to be staying at Buckingham Palace after all the renovations are done. So what does that mean? Is it going to be opened up to the public like a government building? Then you have Harry and Meghan, who have 2 invisible children in the line of succession. One would think if the institution plans on staying around for another 200-300 years, they would ensure that that line of succession is legit. And then on top of it, you have William traveling around the globe acting like a global statesman, and nothing is being done about staying politically neutral because there's alignment across the board with the left here, especially when it comes to this climate hoax. And then you look at Harry and Meghan and all the damage that they have been causing here in the United States, and no one is stepping in to stop it. So is it possible that we are in process of ending the monarchy and they just haven't told anybody? Because this is not something that can happen overnight. You notice with the Commonwealth countries, that's not an automatic position to be ahead of the Commonwealth countries, and you don't see Charles or William stepping up to say that they want it that way, right? Now, here's the thing. We're all watching the UK be destroyed and burned to the ground on purpose. One would think that if you were a ruler and this was your realm, you'd want to try and stop it, especially for your own people. But here we have a royal family who doesn't seem to care that all of these children are getting raped. You have Islam coming in and conquering certain towns and taking over. They're taking over in parliament. They're taking over as judges. I mean, literally being conquered. One would think that the royal family would find that a bit threatening, unless the monarchy is in the process of falling. Now, obviously, the royal family is not going to make any kind of announcement that they're phasing themselves out. But over the course of time, as we see these little things chip away more and more, it does feel like that's what's happening here. When you think about the political landscape right now in the UK and the damage that the government is doing against its own citizens, this can't go on if things don't change in 2029. The country will officially be lost. So one has to wonder, like, do the royals see that? Do they care? Doesn't seem like they do. And maybe that's why they're allowing Harry and Meghan to do whatever they want, because it doesn't matter. Hopefully, Prince Harry will face consequences for perjuring himself in this latest court case, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I think the only hope that we have here right now is for the United States to take appropriate action for what he's been doing over here. And that's where I'm going to put my money. I still have hope that justice will be served. But what do you guys think? I know this is a short video, but definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
It was such a fraud.